This video is about scenarios and planning for different outcomes. Why do you want to do that? Well, you might want to play with your sales forecasts. You might want to try a different strategy out, different go-to-market, launch a new product. On the cost side, you might want to see what happens if you make some savings here, there, and everywhere, and just to actually see, well, can we afford to do this thing at the right time? So much safer doing it in Predict first and testing out your assumptions and seeing what the full impact on your full business is, not just on cash flow, but profitability, etc. And so without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we are going to go and take a look. So we're going to start on the cost saving side of things first, because it's really easy to, it's probably more straightforward than the sales side, which is where you're going to get probably most excited on the sales side of things. But we're going to do costs first. So I'm in expenses on the home screen, and we've grouped accounts into a straightforward grouping. And I'm going to have a look at our rent for this premises. So in an office situation, there's lots of displacement of the workplace, as we know. So you might not be paying, you might want to make some savings there. If I click any of the cells for any of the transactions, you're going to see where these predictions have come from. So scrolling backwards, here's all the historicals. We're in August 2021 for this in this video. And these are all of the historical. This is the historical information that's come from your cloud accounting package. Invoices, bills, cash transactions, journals. And in this case, it's actually a journal. So if I just zoom in here very quickly, you can see that we're detecting monthly journals on this account and are projecting £6,000. It could well be dollars or whatever currency you've got, we're pulling that through at the end of each month. And this is being transferred to rent prepayments. Okay, so journals are being detected. We're posting them just like your accounting packages as well. But I've decided that we're not going to have rent anymore, because we're going to stop working altogether, and we're going to work remotely. As a florist, probably that wouldn't happen in this case, but in your case, it might well happen. You saw here on the left-hand side, there's a toggle. So toggling it on, toggling it off. Well, what happens? You can see your cash balance. It didn't actually change because actually, in this instance, we've transferred the journal to rent prepayments. So if I go to the balance sheet and I expand, let's make these a bit bigger, and we look at the liabilities, we've got our rent prepayment accounts there. Well, why is it doing that? Well, if I open it up, actually we pay our rent quarterly. So the system's detected that, and it knows that the cash impact is actually happening on a quarterly basis, but in your profit and loss, you've still got that expense happening on a monthly basis. So those sorts of things you don't need to worry about. If that's already happening in your accounts package, Predict knows, and it's going to make those postings for you. So let's go back to the P&L and we'll go to our expenses, and we can see that the rent here is turned off from a journals perspective. Go back to the balance sheet, you'll see that line now is there. So that's the journals all happening. But we don't want this to happen. We're turning this off in its entirety. We're going to turn it off on this account, and we're going to turn it off on this account too. So suddenly that we've got an £18,000 every quarter is not hitting our cash flow. So let's go back to the home. We can see that visualized. We've now got not just red. I mean, Josie is going through a bit of a tough time at the moment. So not just red, is that's all actually updated and changed. So now let's see if we can increase her sales. Okay, so we've got wedding sales, which are now happening again in the UK because COVID's over. Happy days. Well, it's not over, but weddings can happen in our region over here. And very simply, what I want to do is say, right, well, we've got a pattern of wedding sales that are going forward, but we're going to add some more, and we're going to say, well, what happens if we actually increase our sales, take on 3 more a month, for instance. So I'm going to do repeating new weddings, because I'm going to do a really targeted campaign to see if I can maximize those types of sales. And we're going to say, okay, well, if we average £2,500 per for each one of them, and so we've got £2,500 here. We're going to say it's monthly, and I'm going to end it after 2 repeats. So that'll give me 3 in total. I'm not going to do any increases. I am charging VAT on it, and I'm going to split the payments over 2 instances, one on day 0 and one day 60, for instance. Each one of them, you could list out, for instance, each one of those weddings as a separate line so that you can really tailor the payment profile of it when it comes in. So I'm going to update that. We've got 3 weddings that are happening in this run, in this way. There we go. So we've got 2.5 grand, which is going to be in our profit and loss under income. There we go, new weddings. And then if we go to the cash flow side of things and see cash from business activity, you can see that it's coming through here, the new weddings, because we've got some of them are being paid on our day 0, and then we've got the remainder of it being paid in 60 days. Now, what happens if I decide that, okay, we've got, so that's three months of new weddings. I'm going to add another one. And let's just do freestyle on this. More new weddings. There's loads of them. And it's not, I'm going to do even better this time. Fine, great. Let's put in, we're not going to put any in this month because I've got my marketing to do, which I can then, I'm going to put that additional marketing spend in the expenses is what I would do. But I'm going to say that actually, because of that additional marketing, I think I'm going to get 2 much bigger wedding clients. No problem. Hit save. Thank you. Yes, I'm going to store that on the last day of the month. And just because I want to see what the impact is on my business if that happens, I'm going to say it's just paid on the same day. Again, quick and dirty. I can understand what's happening there. What about that marketing? Well, I don't actually think I've got a marketing line here. However, what I do have is flower wholesale. So let's just open that up, and we want to add in a freestyle account there. And I'm going to say that for a 5 grand wedding, the actual cost of the flowers is going to be flower costs. It's going to be 500 quid. Let's put that in. Again, it's going to make no difference what currency you're using. This is all about making sure that whatever you're putting down here as your assumption, as your different scenario, it's flowing through all the way through your profit and loss. So you can see your profit will update. It's going through to your balance sheet, your bank's updating, your VAT or GST is updating if that's the case. And of course, it's flowing through to your operating cash flow statement as well. So there's our costs that come in here. We're going to say they're same day as well, because we're playing around, we're taking ownership of our numbers, and we're getting comfortable with what this then means. So if I then go back, it's quite nice to be able to visualize things in a chart. We can say, okay, right, it's starting to look a wee bit better here as I do this. If I turn off the flower costs, funnily enough, our cash goes up because we haven't bought anything. But this is kind of the point. It's about going, right, what do I actually think is going to happen in my business? Predict's doing a ton of work for you. So all of that heavy lifting, particularly on the COGS and the expense side of things, it's tracking not just the activity and when things are going to hit the profit and loss, but it's also aggregating when you pay your suppliers and when your customers pay you. So in this instance, you apparently pay your suppliers in 28 days. Brilliant. But, it might make a difference if we turn that off and then go, right, well, what happens if that stays the same? Hold on, we're going to go, right, well, our flower wholesale 7.5K typically. I'm going to do a freestyle of a later payments. Let's do a later payment. And I'm going to say, right, we're just going to mimic what Predict's doing here. And we're going to say that it's, 7,500. Let's get rid of you for a second. 7,500 per month. I'm only going to do a couple. I'm not going to do them all. Ooh, no, there we go, 7,500. But when I go to the payment side of things, it's not going to be 28 days. I'm actually going to say, no, it's not. We're going to do this in 60 days. Because actually, sometimes what you might want to see is, well, hold on a second. If I actually do a payment later, does that get me out of this situation? Or do I have more opportunity to grow because I've conserved more cash? That's the point of this. Toggle it on, toggle it off. play with different scenarios. You can also play with different scenarios on a much more pinpoint accurate, with what you've got sitting within your cloud accounting packages by going to the invoices and bills section. So if you're chasing your customers to pay you quicker, or on the case of bills, if you're saying, well, actually, what happens if I'm supposed to be paying that in 24 days on September the 9th? What happens if I contact my supplier, and I say, actually, can we pay it a month later? You can see how all of that then flows through, because actually you might not be running out of money. It might be a timings issue. So this is where Predict is just going to give you back that sense of control, so that whatever aspect of it, whether it's a case of going, okay, let's look at what a 10% increase is on this, or 20% increase is on this, or best case or worst case, or hiring a new staff, or making redundancies. Unfortunately, those are some things that we have to do sometimes, or reducing our rent costs, halving them. Does that give us enough to be able to grow and do the next phase of our business? This is what scenarios are all for. Really easy, really simple. It's it's like that live maps app with information coming in all the time. So as you then, as you get more comfortable with the system, what you said that you're going to do, you can toggle it on, toggle it off, and make the right decision. That's scenarios in Predict.